Hello, and thank you for watching our STEM Careers Week interviews. My name is Heather Bowie. I'm from the STEM Ambassador in Scotland Hub. Here we work with volunteers from all across the STEM sector to help them engage with young people to find out a bit more about the jobs that are available in the STEM sector and where your studies might take you in real life. So today we're going to be speaking to Lorna Bennet, who is a mechanical engineer at Offshore Renewable Energy Catapult, who's going to tell us a little bit about her studies and her route to her current job. So without any further ado, I'll pass over to you, Lorna.
Thanks, Heather. As Heather said, I am Lorna Bennet, and I'll just run you through how I got to where I am today. So when I was at school, I was really into the kind of arts and crafts, the creative side. So some of my early inspirations were around Lego, Connect, Meccano. But one of my favorite things was baking and baking the Christmas cakes. I've always been responsible for family Christmas cakes since about age 6 or 7, at least the design of, and there's some on that picture there. So my favorite subjects at school were kind of sciences, physics, chemistry, maths, but I also really loved art and design. And it was thanks to my higher physics teacher who registered me for the Royal Academy of Engineering Head Start, which is an insight to engineering course, which was a 1-week residential course at the University of Strathclyde, where we went around all of the different engineering departments to decide or to find out what engineering was and what different career paths and options there were. And that was an absolutely fantastic experience. So I ultimately decided to go to a product design engineering course. It was a course run jointly between University of Glasgow and the Glasgow School of Art, because that was the perfect course for me in terms of combining that love of science and art and design, and actually being able to build and make things to try and solve problems. Now, I unfortunately did not get the degree level I was hoping. I passed my course, but I didn't get the first that I had been working so hard for, and I missed out on the opportunity to do a PhD in wind energy systems. But you can't sit around and be upset for too long, so I picked myself up and I got a job with a small company just outside Glasgow called Cali Ocean Systems. And now they were a very small company. They had about 36 employees, and they hired me as a mechanical design engineer. And they designed and built offshore lifting and handling systems. So something I knew absolutely nothing about at the time. But it gave me the opportunity to travel the world. I spent some time visiting suppliers in Lithuania, and I made fantastic friends while I was working over in South Korea as well, and I still keep in touch with them today. But my heart was still set on renewables. I wanted to do something to help with the environment, to help with a more sustainable future. And when I was offered the opportunity to interview for Polamis Wave Power, I absolutely jumped at it. And this was a fantastic organisation. Again, still relatively small. I think there was about 30 to 50 people from when I started to when I left, and we were working at the absolute forefront of technology development in a sector that nobody had ever achieved significant development in before. So everything we were doing was brand new, with a fantastic team trying to capture energy from the power of the waves. Now, unfortunately, the company hit difficulties and went into administration in 2014, and I had to find another job again as soon as possible. And I ended up working for a company called Eastbride Engineering Services, and they were a consultancy for the aerospace sector. So when I was at Polamis Wave Power, I'd started doing a master's degree in marine technologies to try and learn more about the marine environment and the engineering challenges there. And I had just done a module on marine engineering, where our final assignment was on ship propeller designs. And I was able to translate that knowledge exactly over into aeroplane intake fans for aeroplane engines, because all the physics and the science is very similar. So engineering skills are highly transferable between sectors and industries as well. a really interesting industry that I never would have considered working in, but the work I was doing I found incredibly boring compared to all the other roles. So when I was offered the chance to go on a 3-month secondment to go and work with the Offshore Renewable Energy Catapult, again, I absolutely jumped at the chance to get back into the renewable energy sector. So I started with Catapult in June 2016, and they offered me a full-time job, and I've been there ever since. And I work across probably just about anything you can think about in the offshore renewable sector. So we've worked with tidal turbines, Nova Innovation, an Edinburgh-based company with an operational facility in Shetland. We have our leave and mouth demonstration turbine, which is over in Fife. I've spoken at numerous conferences. We work with the equipment manufacturers. So this is a blade being inspected before it's finished for manufacture to go out and into operation, and then robotics and autonomous systems. So for the last 6 years, one of my key roles has been supporting the test and demonstration of new technologies and research projects at our leave and mouth demonstration turbine. So we have done projects looking at technician welfare of operating offshore. If people are feeling seasick, are they able to do their job to the best of their abilities? We have looked at implementing remote monitoring sensor systems so that technicians don't have to go offshore as often, to looking at employing robotics and new robotic systems to try and reduce the amount of time people need to spend offshore, and also to remove some of those more either dangerous or boring tasks, to make the work easier and better for the people working there. And my particular focus at the moment, is my passion, is looking at this question of circular economy and sustainability. How can we continue to ensure that the offshore renewable energy sector remains a sustainable green solution for our future? So looking at this design for repair and life extension right from the start, look at how we use and continue to use the materials that we're already using, so that we don't need to mine as many virgin materials, new materials out of the earth, keep what we're already using in circulation for longer, retaining the material value and reducing the environmental impacts. That question of reuse, repair, refurbish, how can we keep equipment operating for longer without having to go through the full, eventually recycling process of breaking down the materials again and then reforming them into new products. So that question of sustainability and energy transition is my particular area at the moment. And it's so interesting and I love it. Last but not least, some of the achievements I've had over my career, I show you this not to boast, but because, as I mentioned near the start, I had essentially what I considered failed my first degree. And I've worked really hard in all of the areas that I'm passionate about. And this is just some of the awards and recognition for my passion and dedication, and particularly around volunteering. So events like this, these STEM engagements, showing young people, the career opportunities within engineering, within renewables. I feel I almost missed out, or I could have missed out very easily on the chance to find out about engineering. So I'm very passionate about talking about it, and this is just some of the recognition for that work. And as I say, I wasn't the best student, but I've had an absolutely fantastic career, and I hope you all will too. So thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for that, Lorna. And yeah, some really good takeaways there that I think you don't always go straight into the career that is going to be, what you're looking for, or the one that you're going to stick with for a long time. You maybe have to try different things out to get to where you want to be. And as you say, you felt that you didn't achieve what you wanted to in your degree, but it led you different places, and you've gone on to do all these wonderful things. So yeah, it's not the end of the world if you don't get the results that you're looking for, first of all. So we've got some questions that have been sent in by our young people. I think you have covered quite a few of them in your presentation, but we've got some other ones. So you talked about the Royal Academy of Engineering program that you went on. Did you get the opportunity to do any work experience when you were at school or while you were studying your degree?
Yes, so in, I think it was third or fourth year of high school, we got told to go out and find a week's work experience placement somewhere. And when you've got no idea of what is available in the world, the first thing you fall back on is whatever your parents do, really, isn't
Exactly.
it? So
Yeah.
I did my week's work experience in the laboratories in the hospital in Glasgow because both my parents, they worked in microbiology and bacteriology. So I spent a week mixing media in the labs and screening films and trying to identify different bacteria under the microscope, and even spent some time in hematology looking at how they spin down and separate bloods for different tests within the hospital. But I was not very good at biology, so I knew that was going into the medical environment was never going to be an option for me. So when I first went to university, I thought what I would actually do would be an engineer designing medical tools and products,
Okay.
because that was where I thought I could maybe help the most. But I actually, the process to design medical devices is incredibly long and arduous. And one of my lecturers put me off that slightly, but then I discovered the Engineers Without Borders. And we went on a few day trips or weekend trips to look at projects and sustainability and trying to provide energy and water to remote communities that are maybe not connected to main grids and things. And it resonated with something that I had totally forgotten, and that I always wanted to be self-sustainable, and I'd always thought about it and how to grow your own food in your own garden, or could you produce your own power and be self-sustainable. And part of that actually fed back to when I was young. We used to have winter power cuts where we'd have no electricity from anywhere between 1 hour to, I think, 9 days was the longest we had no power for.
Wow.
And it was literally just a breaker switch on the substation round the corner, but because it was all secured, we couldn't just go flick it back on like you can when the fuse goes in your house. We had to wait 9-10 days for a technician to come out and turn it on for us. And I was always wanting to know, how can I not be relying on a person who's incredibly busy all over the country trying to restore power when we know what the problem is. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Can you imagine that nowadays? 9 days without your internet, guys. 9 days without any of your gadgets. And I think that answers another one of our questions, which was where your interest from renewables came from. So it's not, as you say, obviously you did the work experience because your parents did that and you were aware of that. But as you're doing your sort of degree and things, you find out about other things. And obviously it was an interest that you already held.
Yeah, it's funny because you forget about things as well. So it's only through interviews like these, discussions like these, that you think, oh yeah, actually, when I was 7, then that happened, and actually that's kind of subconsciously fed into where you want to go. So, and back to what you said as well, if things don't work out, you do jobs, you learn lessons, and even if you're not enjoying something you're doing, you're learning so much from it, even if you don't recognize that at the time as well. Like my last job, I did not enjoy it at all, but I've learned I will never apply for a job like that again.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know. And that was another of our questions was, so you went to do the product design engineering because you'd identified that you liked that sort of thing. But there's so many different engineering degrees out there. Do you have any tips for sort of finding out about which one would suit you? Is there places that you can go to get more information about the different types of engineering, or sort of getting a taster of it?
Yeah, so as I said, that Royal Academy of Engineering Head Start Insight to Engineering course, that was really valuable. I had already kind of decided what course I wanted to do because I had gone to the Glasgow University Open Day, and that was when I'd first found product design engineering. And then when I did the Head Start course, we did the design manufacturing engineering course for a morning there, and it just confirmed that that was the direction I wanted to go in. But it's so hard to find out information when there's just too much. So I think if you have an idea that you might be interested in science subjects or engineering, then definitely university open days are a great place to start, and have a look at I say the Royal Academy of Engineering website is fantastic as well. It's got the This Is Engineering video series they did as well, where they've got engineers in quite unexpected roles. One in particular that I remember is the movie visual effects engineers and what they did, and that's like a whole other sector that I know absolutely nothing about. But they, there is so much information out there. Talks like these are obviously fantastic, and at colleges and things as well, they obviously talk about college courses and apprenticeship opportunities, which are maybe in partnership with the colleges as well. And there's also some opportunities, maybe not as many since COVID and things, but some companies, they have the doors open day. I know the IET, the Institute of Engineering Technology, they have an open doors day kind of encouraged. I think it's usually August time, where the companies will maybe register to open their doors and run tours of what they do there as well. So if there's any in your local area, then that's always worth looking out for as well. And the Glasgow Open Doors Day as well. I don't know if any other places do that. I do know of those two.
Yeah, Fife do their open doors day. I think they all do them sort of different times of the year, so it's definitely worthwhile having a little Google of the open doors, because I think most of the local authorities do them. So hopefully there'll be something near you that you could go and visit.
Yeah, and if you think you're interested in something, don't be afraid to reach out and contact a company. I've spoken to several school children that have gotten in touch around questions of work experience, whether it's for a day or a week or just a chat. And we're always happy to try and help and encourage and guide in any way possible as well. And I know there's lots of other companies that do too. So don't be afraid to reach out to any companies if you think they're of interest to you.
Brilliant, some brilliant advice here. And we've got a series of these interviews. We've got another 2 engineers, all in sort of different fields. So have a look, just see if something piques your interest. Just a couple of questions. So obviously, women in engineering, we hear a lot about how it's more difficult for women in engineering. I personally went to do a course in mechanical, electrical and electronic engineering when I left school many years ago, and I was one of 2 women in the course, one who dropped out after a few weeks, and then I eventually dropped out. I don't actually think they were very welcoming and things. I think it just wasn't for me, but it was a little bit intimidating. Have you found that there's more women going into engineering, and have you found it's had any effect on your studies or your career? Have you found it caused any barriers or anything?
I've never been conscious of any barriers. I have worked with 1 or 2 prickly characters, but everyone else, I say one or 2 in a career of 12 years now, looking at the date, is, that's really good going. And everyone's going to meet people that they disagree with or don't get along with. But my colleagues have always been fantastic. And, that's one of the things I love so much about my job is the people I get to work with. Yes, I believe there are more women going into engineering these days. And you can see that starting to come through now. And from my experience, I say from across four different work environments, 4 different jobs, renewables has a much higher volume of diversity across the board. It's a very young industry compared to others like oil and gas or shipping or aerospace or automotive. It doesn't have maybe the same ingrained traditions or culture. It's, renewables has only really been developing for the last 30 years in the UK. So it's a very young workforce. It's a very enthusiastic workforce, and everybody is coming into the sector because they want to make a difference. They want to support a sustainable future, reduce environmental impact, and everybody's really passionate. And it's a very diverse open house industry, then it's it's very high energy as well. Everyone's enthusiastic. It's like, it's not just the daily grind of, oh, we've just got to get this job done. It's everyone's like, well, how can we make it better? You know, it's there's a real sense of progress within renewables that I've not experienced in the same way in other sectors.
That's brilliant, and leads us very nicely onto our last question, which was, is there a lot of job opportunities in the renewable sector? So it sounds like there
Oh
is.
my goodness, yes. So I can only speak with any detail about offshore renewables. The offshore wind sector deal that was signed, an agreement between industry and government in 2019. They were aiming to have I think it was 20,000 people directly involved in offshore wind by 2030. And a study done last year that was published by some of the engineering institutes says that they expect that might be up to 100,000 by 2030 now. So the growth in the industry is huge, and that's across all boards, from the original surveyors of the environment and wildlife aspects of the seabeds before installation, the design, development of the actual turbines themselves. Then obviously the construction phase is a huge component, and then obviously ongoing operations and maintenance, repairs, and just making sure that the systems are working. Data science is becoming a major part of every sector as well. If anyone can analyze data, you're doing much better than me. Data is like I stay away from it. I deal in physical things. I'm a mechanical designer, physical things. But data science has become a huge area of development, because we install so many monitoring sensors on these systems to try and optimize the performance and make sure that the turbines are operating as well or as best as they possibly can. So there's a huge science around predictive maintenance. So can you analyze the data and see that there's maybe going to be a problem coming up with something and go out and fix it before it breaks, and then it takes so much longer to try and fix it or replace parts. And or looking at wind farm optimization as a whole. So controlling each turbine slightly differently to optimize the wind of the turbines behind them all. Oh, there's so much. And then of course the robotics and autonomous systems we've already mentioned, with the aerial drone inspections. You've got internal crawler robots now, and you've got subsea inspection vessels. There's just so many different areas. And now, as I mentioned at the end there, the area I'm starting to look at more closely is, what do we do when it comes to end of life? How do we retain the value of the materials we're already using? How do we recirculate those back into the development of new turbines or new products, so that we're not relying on mining more virgin materials and causing more environmental damage by trying to extract more from the earth? How we should use what we already have as effectively as we possibly can before we start looking for more. Yeah, there's just so many things, and I could go on for ages about it.
It's lovely to hear you're so passionate about your job, and yeah, obviously so many areas. So definitely one that is going to be around for a long time, and it's just going to keep increasing, I think. So if it is something that our young people are interested in, I don't think they'll struggle to get a job in it. So thank you very much for your time, Lorna. It's been really lovely. Great to hear about your studies and your career route to date and all the opportunities that are out there. Please do watch our other videos, and we will speak to you soon. Thanks. Bye.